Get off my lawn. Good morning and welcome again to Country Curmudgeon. Today I'm going to talk about another one of those things that irritates me and yet is somewhat a source of pride for me. And that is the field of solar energy production. Now, the reason I'm going to talk about this personally is that I've been a DIY, that stands for do-it-yourself, solar energy maker for many, many years now. I actually started back in Denver when I lived up in Denver back in like 99, maybe in the 2000s. I was living in a small house in Littleton, Colorado, and I started experimenting with do-it-yourself energy production at home. I literally built my own electric windmill that worked and that generated electricity. I learned the ins and outs of deep cycle batteries. Back then they were flooded and heavier than probably me. I learned how to build the windmill blades out of PVC pipe. And then I also built my own solar panel. I actually ordered the individual electric panels or electric cells from somewhere online and learned how to solder them together in series, test them out, and then I put them together in my own homemade photovoltaic panel. It was a great experiment. I learned that I didn't save any money doing it, but at least I understood better the property behind it. What I'm going to talk about today then is basically what the difference is between piddling around with solar energy at your home, in your RV, at your cabin, and trying to scale it up on a municipal level or a statewide level or a nation level or even a world level. And why I say then that it's not ready for prime time. I'm going to show you a couple of my own do-it-yourself projects that I've done that I feel has turned me into a solar energy expert. And you'll all recall that I've said that the definition of an expert is a has-been drip under pressure. I hope you guys have gotten that by now. A drip under pressure is a spurt. And if it's has-been, it's X. So it's an expert. Yeah, I hope I don't have to explain that anymore. Anyway, let me first show you a couple of projects that I have accomplished myself. And then I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about why I don't feel solar energy is the answer to large-scale infrastructure needs. Let's go there. Okay, so I want to tell you about some solar projects that I've done that I use in my daily life. The first one is what I did in my RV a year or so ago, well, a couple of years ago. I built a solar electric generating system into my RV so that to this day I can travel anywhere in the country in my RV and never have to hook up to any kind of shore power. I don't have to rent RV spaces. Sometimes I do, but I don't need to. And except for when I need enough wattage for my air conditioner, this system handles all of my needs, completely all of my electric needs in my RV. The second is the one that I have kind of left on my house here in Mesa as a emergency backup. I have other systems that take care of my electric needs in a grid down situation, but this is a small system that I maintain at my home for a backup of the backup. And then in a week or so, I'll be up at my cabin in Colorado. And I want to show you the solar electric system I've built into that again meets all of my electricity needs of any kind. So I'm going to enjoy showing you these projects first, and then we'll talk about the challenges and the failures of trying to scale solar electric up into something that would take care of all of society. Let's talk about that for a minute. First of all, let's go to the RV. So first I should tell you about my original RV setup. I had a Road Trek 200, bought it from my father when he no longer wanted to travel in it, and I towed along behind me a little 5x8 enclosed cargo trailer that I kept my Harley in. And when I decided I wanted to put solar electric in the RV, I had to start with the technology that we had at the time, which was these absolutely enormous flooded batteries. I think I started out with some small golf cart batteries, but then I decided to get sophisticated. Then I had these enormous Trojan batteries that were 100 amp hours each. That was supposed to be 200 amp hours, but because you could only discharge flooded batteries to 50% of their capacity, that meant I really only had about 100 amp hours usable in these absolutely enormous batteries that, like I said, actually did way more than I do. So this was the technology of the time. I also had this 250 watt, 24 volt single solar panel that I mounted on the top of the Harley trailer and wired it down into the controller inside the RV itself. It was a very small, rather unsophisticated charge controller. I had the inverter mounted inside one of the outside storage bays in the back of the RV, and of course I had this remote button on the inside. So all in all, this system was crude, heavy, inefficient, dangerous. Flooded batteries could put off gas that was flammable. And very, very, it was effective, but it was very crude and primitive, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So I graduated to this system on my RV that I currently have. It's a Chinook Concourse, and this is much easier to use, much more convenient, much more sophisticated, and a whole lot lighter. I have to apologize here for all of the extraneous noise that you keep hearing. I've discovered that every time I come in here to do one of these narrations or shows, Rascal's got to come in and either chomp away on his dinner or slurp away in his water or run in and out of his dog door with its squeaky little flap. So that's what you're hearing, and it's all his fault. So back to the RV. This is my basic setup on my RV. You can see I have 3 100-watt panels for 300 watts. Yes, it needs washing terribly. Then that feeds down to 400 amp hours of lithium batteries. The one on the end I actually take out to use on my boat. Now we've got the charge controller just above those batteries, and then down below the batteries we have the actual inverter. This is a 3000 watt inverter, and I have a remote panel inside the RV that I can switch it on and off. That makes it real convenient. So that is my RV solar power system. I didn't rewire my RV or do anything like that. I simply put a plug in that I attached to the solar energy system that I can plug my shore power umbilical into and let it take over from there. I hardly ever use my onboard gasoline generator because of that. And one of my main motivations was that I wanted to be able to make my coffee in the morning without worrying about people in the campground being ticked at me for turning a generator on. So for that reason, it's very, very good. The second system I have is one that is that I mentioned is a backup of a backup. And this is my 250 watt, 24 volt single panel on the top of my house in Mesa. There were a lot more panels up here, but my father removed them because he was frustrated when he didn't believe me that solar energy is fuzzy math. This then is the charge controller for that panel up there, and you can see that it says 27 volts. That means that this battery, being a 24 volt battery, is charged up to 27 volts, and that is precisely how it should be, exactly how the system should run. And then up above the battery, I have it wired into the inverter. As you can see, the inverter isn't doing anything right now. So that system is a very small, underpowered solar electric generating system. I don't have it wired up or hooked up to anything here at home, so I really don't have any loads on it right now. It's basically kind of like one of those Blue Eddy things or something, just built into my house. So it's a standby. And I'll use it in case some of my other systems that I use when there's a grid down situation run out of juice or run out of usefulness. By the way, grid down is a polite term for when the stuff hits the fan. Well, all right, when the shit hits the fan. I've labeled this video as not for kids, so deal with it. The third system that I want to show you is the one that I've built into my cabin up in Colorado. And it's 1,000 watts. It stores, I think, about 600 amp hours. I'll show you the parts of that. And in essence, it's my way of staying off the grid up there in my neighborhood. It is zoned as a residential neighborhood, and there's power poles up along the streets. I just haven't had to hook into them, and I hope that I don't ever have to hook into them. And that makes me totally off the grid up there in Colorado. So let's take a look at that system. I am now up in my cabin in Como, Colorado. It is about an hour and a half southwest of Denver, and it's out near, probably the largest city would be, or town would be Fairplay, Colorado. Kind of right up in the middle of the Rocky Mountains. My property is at 10,000 feet in elevation. I've got 3 acres up here, and I've built a small cabin. I'll do a video sometime soon that's kind of a travelogue of that construction and a tour of my cabin. But for now, suffice it to say, I'm here, happy to be here, and I'm going to describe to you the solar electric system that I have built into the cabin here. I described the one down in Mesa, in my home in Mesa. I described the one in my RV. And this is the one that is built into my cabin. Outside the cabin here, to start with, I have 1,000 watts of solar panels. Each panel is 125 watts. So there's 8 panels here, and that gives me 1,000 watts. As I've said before, solar energy is fuzzy math. So many times I'll get 600, 700, 800 watts out of this on a good sunny day. So just don't think that the numbers are carved in stone. It's fuzzy math. Then on the inside, I have installed all of my components for the solar electric system inside this nifty little cabinet, credenza, that I found at a secondhand store in Fairplay. And it all fits in here perfectly, which is really quite nice. It's just a piece of furniture inside my living room. So here, first off, is the charge controller. It's the same one I've used in my RV and at my home in Mesa. It feeds into these batteries. These are 2 large, you can't see it from this end, but they're very large lithium batteries that I got. I think they're called Ampere Time. Very good product. Low cost, but very, very good product. Anyway, each one of these batteries is 300 amp hours. So I have 600 amp hours sitting here for storage. And that handles everything I need all day long. So what is an amp hour? Well, simply stated, an amp hour is the amount of juice a battery has to have to drive a 1 amp load for 1 single hour. To put that in perspective, electronic machinery use different amounts of amps depending on what kind of energy they need to draw. In plain terms, that means that something like a computer or a TV that don't have a lot of electric motors and stuff like that in it, they'll drive or they'll draw very little amps, 5 to 10 to 20 amps. Whereas something that has a heating element in it or a motor in it, a coffee maker, a microwave, a vacuum cleaner, will draw a lot of amps. I think a coffee maker can draw up to 1,400 amps an hour. So it can pull a lot of juice. And an amp hour on a battery is how much energy it has that will drive 1 amp for an hour. So 600 amp hours means that I've got 600 hours of 1 amp draw. It's not really important. Again, fuzzy math. But obviously, when I run my vacuum cleaner, I'm going to draw those batteries down a lot quicker than I do when I'm using my computer or my TV. That's put it in a nutshell. Then, of course, you come down here just above the inverter there, you see the cutoff switch that I put in. That lets me cut the current from the batteries to the inverter off anytime I need to. And then this is my inverter, again, the same inverter that I use in my RV, 3,000 watt inverter that has a nice hardwire facility that lets me get more juice out of the thing. The outlets that you see on the front of the inverter are just 15 amp outlets, but the hardwire post that you see there down in the right hand corner is 25 amps. So when I wire that into the house hardwired, then I've got some outlets that will handle a little bit more than a 15 amp circuit, which is kind of neat. As I said, it's all stuffed inside this little cabinet, and then all the wires come in from the panels outside in this spaghetti mess. I'm going to fur this out to make it look a little better so that it doesn't always look like an explosion. So that's my solar electric system up here in Tullyrush. That's the name I give to my 3 acres up here in Como. And it basically keeps me completely and totally off-grid and self-sufficient. Interesting side note, my RV's solar electric generator is a backup for my solar electric system in my cabin. Every once in a while I'll have 2 or 3 days of solid clouds where I'm not getting enough solar electric charging going on, and maybe my batteries, my 600 amp hours, will run out. I have the ability now, I have a permanent extension cord buried in the ground that goes over to my RV that's parked right outside here, and there's a solar electric system in there. I can simply plug into the RV and there's a backup. Another aside is that my RV also has a built-in gasoline generator, so I have a backup of a backup. That's a pretty enviable position to be in.